Howdy everybody, we're back with some more RPG horror stories. Let's just jump into it. Our first story today is going to be by user AvailableAd78 on Reddit and is titled, Player is Taking Over My Campaign. This is kind of my own personal, still developing horror story, but it goes like this. I created my own homebrew campaign and I finished it, then got my two friends to play with me. I am DMing. In the first session was okay, but this one friend, let's call him Gary, wanted to use a homebrew class and a subclass I didn't really know about, so I let him because I'm a people pleaser and didn't see it as a big deal because I want them to have their own fully realized characters. But then he kept recommending things for world building and that was fine too, but his character's backstory had this entire lore that altered my world building, so I had to change some things. And then he kept adding mechanics to the game that are unnecessary, like negotiation mechanics. Now he's putting on his own underground world place in my setting for his subclass that makes no sense in my world, that he keeps mentioning in-game, so now I'm trying to add that too, and he keeps micromanaging shit in-game. I don't know what to do. I just feel like this dude is off on his own thing, acting like a main character. Literally went off on a side quest he had planned for a place he put in my setting, and I just don't know what to do. I feel like I'm just the shadow DM at this point, and I don't know how to talk him down on this. Okay, so OP does need to have a conversation with this player. It is okay to allow your players to add some elements to your world. It is not okay for them to rewrite things or change your story entirely because they can't make something that fits the campaign or story you're attempting to have running. You can tell them that an underground world won't work in this world, or that this campaign just isn't focused on that, and to please stick to the story at hand. You could also tell them that you're just not comfortable trying to amend the game to make room for this, and ask them to make something else. As a DM, you sometimes need to stand your ground and just say no. Because if you aren't able to make it work, you can ruin that experience for not only that player, but also for yourself. Either because it won't be what they, the player, were hoping for, or you're going to drive yourself absolutely bonkers trying to bend over backwards to make things work. Never be afraid to say sorry or recommend some sort of change. Given that OP is this far into the campaign, it kind of sounds though, he might just want to end this campaign and start over. That being said, if this continues and he doesn't, he is going to burn himself out. OP may also want to drop this player potentially. It sounds like he's going to micromanage and take over your game. But you also may want to try talking to him, just let him know like, hey, I'm the DM. We're going to run the world my way. It's going to be focused on my story. I'm going to produce the story beats. You need to make something that fits within the world. And if I tell you no, you need to back off. Let him know, hey, if you want to run something this in depth, you can go ahead and DM, and then maybe you just be a player in that world, the new campaign that ends up occurring instead. But ultimately, just tell them it is difficult to make what they want work, and your plan for this campaign is to focus on this thing and not this other thing that they want. If they're a good player and a good friend, they will understand. They can of course be sad, but they should understand and want you, the DM, to also have fun. If they are not willing to, you have your answer now. You need to either stop the campaign or drop them from the campaign. You may need to reconsider them as a friend if they're going to be that crappy. It's a game. They should be willing to make amends. They should be willing to make changes and alterations to a character to make it fit in the world that you are providing them. Ultimately though, I would really suggest stopping this campaign, and then I would seriously consider dropping this player if they're not willing to change and make amends based off of suggestions you're making. Alrighty, our next story is going to be from user Owl Ice and is titled Found Out We Had a Secret Listener to Our Sessions. So I've been DMing for a while and for the same group of people for years, and recently, about last week, I was hosting a session for everyone. It was at a particular person's house who we will call A. A agreed to host the session at their house and to let me sleep over so I wouldn't have to worry about my last bus at 9 p.m. And I thought everything was great. We had a long, happy session and soon ended, saying goodbye to everyone leaving for their homes and settled in to clean up my D&D things. When I suddenly hear A say, "What did you think of the session?" And of course, I said I thought it was great, thinking they spoke to me. But then he told me, "Oh, I was talking to B." I was obviously confused. I don't know who B is, or how they know about the campaign. and A explained that B has been on a Discord call for the entire thing, and that they've been following along the whole campaign without me knowing. Not gonna lie, that is a bit weird. Like, why not ask if B can listen in? I'm sure there's a good chance that people might not care, though some ultimately might. Some people really aren't comfortable playing with a quote-unquote audience and don't want to feel like they're having to put on a show, or they feel less comfortable with the RP they do because they feel like they're going to be judged by this outside entity that is not actively participating in the game that they're playing. A really should have asked about this. I said that wasn't cool and asked why this person was listening in. A said that I'm being dramatic and that B just enjoyed my sessions, which was nice, but I still felt uncomfortable. And it ended with A kicking me out after I said it wasn't cool with it, and he said he could do whatever he wants and to leave his house. I did and needed to call up someone else to ask if I could sleep there. I still don't know what to say about that to the rest of the group. There's an edit to this post. To clear it up, the fight that led to me getting kicked out was not very long. A said to leave if I didn't like what he did, and I did without saying anything further. Update. So I talked to my party about an hour ago, and the person who let B listen. I pretty much acted like everything was fine until now, but now I realize how creepy it was, especially having it happen for the last 10 sessions, as A ended up telling me, without me or anyone else knowing. My party is freaked out because a lot of them now feel uncomfortable and said that A should be kicked out, but before I actually got around to kicking A out myself, they just blocked everybody on Discord and WhatsApp, didn't even try to defend themselves much or anything other than saying that I should be flattered that B wanted to listen in. I can understand people wanting to listen in. You know, sometimes people don't know what D&D is and they're kind of curious, or their partner's involved in it and they want to know, like, hey, what is this thing you're doing? Because they're trying to take an interest in their partner's, activities and stuff. But always, 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 always ask if it is okay. Everyone at the table needs to be okay with this kind of thing happening. Some people do not want to be a radio show for some freaking rando. Get that permission. It is wrong and creepy of A to have done this. They should feel bad. Also, kicking someone out because of that, I also feel like is kind of immature. I'm glad A is out. Thankfully, nothing bad happened from OP being kicked out late at night. I can understand people feeling uncomfortable if someone was listening on their D&D. You don't know why that person's there, and not knowing why they're there is freaking weird. So good on OP for wanting to kick them. Thankfully, the trash ended up taking itself out, though. They clearly realized, and by they I mean A, that they fucked up immensely, but they clearly are not mature enough to face the music. Alrighty, our last story today is going to be from user Gilnack95 and is titled DM Retcons Ambush on BBEG into a TPK. Context. The campaign has been dragging a bit lately, barely any quests, no direction on what to do in the world, and at other times railroading into unfun situations. We have mentioned it before to the DM that we don't know what we're supposed to do at this point. No quest or story beat has had anything to do with finding the BBEG or what their evil plan is. We only know they want to take political power, so taking them out afterwards will ruin our reputation and that of our friends and family. In a sense, no big deal, but not something we want to have happen in RP, so we want to find their base of operations. Our party of 4 level 16 characters do one last get together with all of their allies before heading towards the BBEG. The dinner is a hero's feast as prep for the next 24 hours. My cleric does one final Hail Mary scry on one of the BBEGs. They happen to be twins, and it works for once. I see the BBEG laying on a couch in a study. I can't see much of the room around since that's not what scrying does on a person, but I do get a little description of the immediate space around said BBEG. So my plan is to use that knowledge as an anchor to use plane shift to the BBEG. We have a wizard friend that can teleport us to another plane so we can plane shift back into our plane of existence. We've done this before in this campaign to get to specific points where we had a vague knowledge of the area. Okay, so this is an interesting use of the plane shift spell. When I talk about the plane shift spell, I'm referring to it in the context of 5e and like 5.5 or 2024 5e or whatever you want to call it. Now, I personally don't know if I would allow it to be that pinpoint accurate or allow someone to be that specific with it, but if it has been allowed before by the DM, that means the DM has probably at least okayed the use of it in this way. I can understand the disappointment at a lull in the story. Sometimes the DM is working on cooking stuff up, and the party unfortunately kind of has to meander for a few days after a big adventure. But if we're in the closing arc of a campaign, it sounds like the DM's kind of dropped the ball here. It would be one thing if these players didn't try at all to move the plot forward, but if they have been actively trying to investigate and find plot threads and stuff like that, and the DM isn't somehow feeding this to them at all, to be honest, it's really on the DM for the plot not moving forward and for the feelings that this table are currently going through. As an added help, our monk, who has a cartography background and is very good at drawing from descriptions, makes a sketch of what my cleric can describe. We roll and get a high roll for me, a 20+, and a middle of the field roll from the monk, about a 12 or 13. The DM sets the DC based on this to see if our teleport into a plane shift will get where we want to go. He sets the DC to a 4% on a D100. Yikes, but hey, fair, it is a long shot. Good on the players for being okay with such an insanely difficult DC, but I also agree with this DC. You're pushing the bounds, to be honest, on what I think the plane shift spell should be, and especially how it is written raw. And when that happens, the DC should be difficult. You're pushing the bounds of essentially reality and magic coalescing in one year, so it should understandably be difficult. Me and a mate roll separate D10s just so it feels like a team effort, and we roll a 2. A 2. The table celebrates as we say our goodbyes and get teleported and plane shift into the study that I saw in the scry. As we land, the BBEG is in the door walking out. Startled, they turn around and say, "Ugh, not right now." And the session ends. The DM needs to prep. Success! I like how both of the players rolled half of the D100. And then I also understand the DM needing to stop to prep things here. I have definitely been there, where your players come up with this kooky plan, they try it out, and it ultimately somehow works. And now I'm not prepared. And that's okay. That's awesome. And I get to now prepare for this cool thing that happened. Next session, the recap, and we wish to start blasting since we caught them off guard. The DM, however, stops us and says that the door is closed. The BBEG left the room, and the room shifts into a pocket plane. A trap. At this point, we're confused and pissed since our clutch moment got robbed. Anyway, we get stuck into a pocket plane, and after multiple battles where nothing was explained, we TPK as my cleric is the last man standing and cannot save on a paralysis check since he needs a natural 20 to succeed. We die, the table ends up going quiet. DM says as we are cleaning up, "Do you all want to continue? Because this sucks that you died right here. Death does not need to be the end." We politely declined and ended the campaign there. The waste of a 5+ year campaign. What a cop-out. Now, if this BBEG had info tease that they are really good with the arcane, or they use pocket dimensions or something like that, I can totally understand triggering this trap and going to a pocket dimension. But this sounds like a DM who is not ready for the campaign to end. They freaked out and are trying to extend the time frame with just a random pocket dimension now obscuring the way for the players. They then didn't end up balancing an encounter right, or the dice just said that things are not going to go great today, and the party ultimately ended up getting TPK'd. Now, my question on the paralysis saves going bad, were the enemies actively killing the players off, or would these be baddies that might possibly take them prisoner? To be, ransomed off or brought back to the BBEG to let him kill them instead, or something like that. It is unfortunate the DM didn't plan things out very well. It does happen though. But if your players make a long shot work, you need to let it work. They worked together and collaboratively to make this happen. And that is part of the fun of 5e and a lot of TTRPGs just in general, is that team collaboration, that working together, that bringing strengths to the table and ideas to mesh together to make cool and interesting things happen, to tell fun stories. This DM unfortunately took what should have been an awesome, memorable campaign moment and instead made it memorable in the exact opposite way, horrible. They're gonna look back on this and be sad. Now, I can understand them not wanting to continue this. This DM, personally, I think they have a bit of an issue here with planning things, and I would be worried about continuing it. Plus, having a cool moment like that taken from you and then dying afterwards really will take the wind out of one's sails. I do not blame this party at all. Alrighty, buddy, that is going to be it for today. Thank you all for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the stories we talked about in those comments down below. Don't forget to like if you haven't yet, subscribe. And don't forget to catch me on Twitch. I stream during the week. Links are in the description. I hope I see you guys there. I will see you guys on the next one, though. Bye-bye, everybody.